feel like what we need is like some sort of sound effect, like the dude from. Is it worth a buy? You've got the ding. We should have like a cha-ching every time like someone cash grabs, a developer cash grabs. You should have a cha-ching sound effect.
I'll get on it. Can you imagine the uproar if a publisher broke off the ending to one of its games just to sell it to you as a whole other game? Annoying, right? Now imagine that publisher cancelled that other game, leaving its loyal fan base with nothing but an unfinished game and an incomplete story. That would be f***ing ridiculous. Wouldn't it, Square Enix?
Last week, Square Enix announced a new multi-project partnership with Marvel. The partnership aims to create a series of games based on popular Marvel properties such as Iron Man and Captain America. For the announcement, Crystal Dynamics showed off a CGI trailer for an upcoming Avengers game due for release in 2018. A few days later, it was also announced that Eidos Montreal, the team behind the Deus Ex series, were making a Guardians of the Galaxy game. This is all very exciting. We might actually get some good comic book games, unlike the usual cash grab shit we get from Activision. But just when everyone was caught up in the excitement of this announcement, Square Enix made another announcement that you might just have missed.
The company also revealed the Deus Ex series won't be receiving a new game for the foreseeable future, actively putting the series on hiatus. Eidos Montreal, who developed both Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided, have said this move was taken due to the disappointing sales of Mankind Divided. Instead, they'll now shift focus entirely onto the Marvel project.
I just hate how they've done this. It's like one of those political scandals you hear ever so often where they're trying to bury some bad news.
We've got some great news about Marvel. Also, we're not doing Deus Ex anymore. But Marvel, that's how they've gone about doing this. It really sucks just seeing Deus Ex treated in this way. It's one of the Deus Ex, the name is one of the great kind of video game names.
If you ask me, it's actually pretty scandalous what they've done, because they could have completed the story at the end of Mankind Divided, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
But they decided to not complete the story there. They decided, we've got enough story to separate the ending and make it into its own actual game. And Liam from The Office says that he's played Mankind Divided and he loved it, and it was just getting going when the game finished. Like that was it. Like he was like, where is the rest of this game? Oh, that's it, it's going to come in a sequel. But now apparently they're not doing it, which is it just hurts me. It's
always really annoying when those kind of business decisions, kind of those business corporate driven, like, content, we'll break it off for the years. When that comes across in the game, when you're playing the game, you can see the business decisions in the game. That is just shit. That sucks. And they've shot themselves in the foot with this series. Like, Deus Ex is a huge series. It could have been a juggernaut. They wanted it to be a juggernaut that lasted for years, and instead, it just dies on a whimper. Miserable sales for Mankind Divided. From a business point of view, the Marvel deal, I'm sure they did have to make a difficult choice. Like, do we press on with Deus Ex, or do we transfer all those resources and focus it on Marvel? I'm sure it was a tough call.
When you say tough call, what they're doing is they're measuring the amount of money on this side of the balance, and they're measuring the amount of money on that side of the balance, and they decide, which one? Oh, that's a tough call. No, it's not a tough call. It's how much money talks.
It's just giving it benefit of doubt.
Thanks for the diplomatic speak there, Mike, but no, they cashed out is what they've done.
According to an article by Eurogamer, the ending to Mankind Divided was indeed separated from the game because Square thought the game grew too big in scope and decided it would make a better sequel instead of actually just releasing a complete game with a finished story. But now we might never know how that story actually wraps up because they've put the series on hold. Another interesting fact is that in 2013, prior to the release of Mankind Divided, Square Enix went on a huge marketing campaign for Deus Ex, claiming they were creating a rich, multi-layered universe with numerous games, comics, and books, as well as reaffirming their commitment to the franchise, which is just amazingly ironic. Like, anytime you make that kind of statement, like, we'll be sticking with this franchise for the foreseeable future, and then 2 years later, you're abandoning it because it just didn't sell so well. Anytime you make that kind of statement, you're asking for it. You're asking for trouble.
So, while Square say low sales are the reason for no more Deus Ex, maybe it's their behavior that resulted in low sales in the first place. In addition to cutting off the end of the game, there was a huge controversy surrounding the pre-order campaign of Deus Ex. Dubbed the Augment Your Pre-Order, Square tried to tie rewards to the amount of pre-orders the game received. So, the more people who ordered the game, the better the rewards you would get. This project was universally hated by everyone, and it was scrapped soon after, but it left a sour taste for most people, with a lot of people decided to boycott the game altogether. So when you look at the stupid pre-order bullshit and their decision to cut off the end of the game, it's pretty obvious why sales are lower, and they only have themselves to blame.
In other news this week, Mark Zuckerberg has had the bollocks sued off of him and must now pay $500 million over the Oculus VR system. A US court has ruled that Oculus, which was bought out by Facebook, infringed on a copyright held by the company ZeniMax and ordered Oculus executives, including the founder Palmer Luckey, to pay varying amounts in damages. Luckey is on the hook for $50 million, whereas other executives have had to pay between $100 million and $250 million. ZeniMax had originally claimed $2 billion in damages for IP theft and violation of non-disclosure agreements regarding trade secrets, so they've had about a quarter of what they were demanding. However, the jury ruled that Oculus did not in fact steal any trade secrets and that ZeniMax were exaggerating some claims for monetary gain. Oculus planned to appeal the decision, but ZeniMax is out for blood and are even considering stopping the Oculus Rift from being sold, unless they change the code on which the VR headset software is based.
So this all came about when this dude called John Carmack, I believe, used to work for id Software, parented by ZeniMax. He went to work at Facebook, taking some of the code that he'd written while he was there over with him. It wasn't his property, and he went to Facebook, and then ZeniMax said, hang on a minute, that's not yours, we're suing you for $2 billion. And so this is how it all, and ZeniMax, by the way, are parents of Bethesda.
Yeah, id Software.
Yeah, Software. A lot of companies.
A lot of video game properties.
ZeniMax are a big company up there.
Although one thing to note as well, though, Zuckerberg actually gave some evidence in court, and when he was doing that, he said, quite arrogantly really, said, I, like many others in the court, I've never even heard of ZeniMax. I'm quite pleased in a way, even though it's a little bit of a
wipe that smug little grin off his face.
It's a little bit of a grey area lawsuit. Like, there's merits on both sides of the argument, but I'm, for what Zuckerberg said alone, I'm quite happy that he's lost $500 million.
So next up, another bit of news this week was that a crowdfunding campaign was launched for the game Pillars of Eternity 2 by the developer Obsidian. Obsidian, of course, the guys who made the likes of Knights of the Old Republic 2 and Fallout New Vegas, reached their goal of $1.1 million in less than 24 hours. Campaign, which was launched on Fig, an alternative to Kickstarter, is a place where people can either donate the money to a project or actually invest in it and possibly take home a share of the profits. As of recording, the campaign is sitting at $1.9 million, which is around 78% more than the initial funding target. It's safe to say that the reception to the campaign has been hugely positive, probably because of Obsidian's good track record with fundraising, having crowdfunded the original Pillars of Eternity and actually delivered on their promises. Pillars of Eternity 2 is scheduled for release in the first quarter of 2018.
And in Star Wars news this week, EA sent out a tweet hinting at some of the features that will be in the next Star Wars Battlefront game. The tweet teased that the next Battlefront will be even bigger than the first, which is not too hard to pull off, to be honest, offering more locations, characters, and things to actually do across multiple Star Wars eras, which is also an interesting note. You could get some prequel action there, which, come on, you want it. Most importantly, however, the tweet also mentions an all-new single-player campaign and much, much more that will be shared in the months ahead, which to me sounds like it could be a Galactic Conquest campaign, or at least something like it, which was in the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, and was awesome. It sounds like EA have tried to take the most common complaints about Star Wars Battlefront on board, that being that there was nothing actually in the game, and are trying to do their best to address them in the sequel. The majority of players felt that the first Battlefront was good but watered down and was rushed out just to catch the hype train for the Force Awakens movie.
Hype train cash grab is what it was.
Yeah, it was just pretty cynical. There's basically no game there. It was stunning, visually, absolutely stunning. You can't take that away from it. And audio, design was incredible. If you had a good pair of headphones, amazing, right? But that feeling didn't last in about 20 minutes.
And finally this week, Nintendo have announced that global production of the Nintendo Wii U has come to an end. The announcement came soon after Nintendo of Japan announced that Wii U production had ended in Asia, but global production was still up in the air. However, this should come as no surprise, as the Wii U was considered a huge disappointment by many. With the combination of stagnant sales figures, lack of third-party games, and never receiving a price cut, it's easy to see why Nintendo has decided to cut their losses.
This is the Saturday Show, so let's delve into some of the finest comments that the internet has to offer.
First up, Gabriel Shigeo comments on the New Games in February video. For Honor will be dead in 2 months. I've played the beta and it's very repetitive. You've played the beta.
Yeah.
How was it?
I beg to differ. I think it's a lot more interesting than people give it credit for because the combat system is interesting. It gives you a certain amount of options to do. You can attack from a few directions, you can block in those directions, you can dodge, and you can guard break. Right?
Save it for the video. We'll have a video coming up on this very soon.
Yeah.
So hold that thought, Mike.
Next up, Raggy86 comments on our eye tracking video. One day we will all play games by a cable wired into our optic nerve to induce vivid hallucinations. That is an amazing comment. But that sounds so insanely disturbing. Like, just like wired into your optic nerve, or, you know, going in through the back of the head. It doesn't sound like a very sellable product. It doesn't sound like something that you can convince people to do.
Next up, Corey Ford comments on the HD remasters video. Cat shit is way worse. I have 3 dogs and 1 cat. If I were to pile all of the dog shit next to the cat shit would still smell god awful in comparison.
Anyone who has smelt cat shit though knows the truth. Corey knows the truth.
What we're missing here is it depends what you feed them. If you feed them god-awful, rancid food, it can literally, if you smell cat food,
mate,
it smells like cat shit.
I'm feeding my cat good food. I'm feeding him Whiskers, like, he's getting some good food.
If you feed a dog like smelly food, it comes out smelling the same. So whatever you put in one end, it comes out the other end. So what I'm saying is, you, like all things being equal, you feed the cat and the dog the same thing, dog shit's worse.
No.
The debate rages on. So that's it for today's Saturday show. Let us know what you think about any of our news stories down in the comments below, because we do love to have a conversation with you guys. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're new around here, click the subscribe button, check out some more of our content around about here, and we'll see you again in the next one. Until then, bye for now.